So ladies, we're in for a treat because Kari doesn't do this for anyone. And she's a dear friend of mine. I adore her. I have the highest respect for her. She's incredible. A lot of you are going to know about her. She's going to tell us her story of being a child actress and then kind of moving through where she's at today. And she's just probably one of the most gracious, incredible women you'll ever meet. And so I'm giddy, excited that she's with us tonight and that she can share her story, and that you took time out to install Zoom and be with us tonight. So, Kari, welcome to our Love and Elevation family.
So much. What a lovely, lovely intro. And I feel exactly the same way about you, which I'm sure everybody else here does as well. And before I even tell you guys about myself, I will say that I have just the utmost respect for Deanna. I mean, just one of the most powerful, incredible women as a leader, just the most amazing multitasker you will ever see. And if you need something done, you go to her. And we all know that. And just widely respected, not just in the industry that you're in, but just as an entrepreneur in general. So it is an honor to be with you. And we haven't worked together for a while.
I know.
I miss you. So this is really fun, you know? So a little bit about my background. As she said, I started out in television as a kid. I was just a regular kid actor. I grew up on a television series, which some of you may or may not remember. It was called Gimme a Break. It was an NBC sitcom that was on NBC for 6 years. And so I grew up by two parents that were entertainers, and that's kind of naturally what I loved. So it was my dream to act and sing and dance. And when I got the series, I really thought my dream had come true. Unfortunately, my dream kind of turned into a nightmare because the set that I worked on was very toxic. It's publicly known that our star of our show, her name was Nell Carter, had a really, really bad alcohol, drug, pill, food, lots of addiction problems. And sometimes she was the most loving, amazing, wonderful person. And then she could be horrible. And so it was a very abusive set to work on. And unfortunately, as a result, I learned real quick that money, fame, and power does not make you happy. And I was so miserable, and for a long time didn't feel like I had the right to complain because everybody else that were friends of mine that were struggling actors and waiting on tables wanted my job. But the truth is, I had a real good friend of mine who was kind of a struggling actor going from job to job, and he did like 2 lines on my show one week, and afterwards he said, Kari, he goes, you know how much I want to work? He goes, I would never want to do your show again. And so from there, I left. I gathered up enough, I don't know, just survival skills to walk into the show at the end of the 6th season and beg the producers not to make me come back because I was under contract to NBC for 7 years. So they agreed to kind of let my character reoccur in the 7th season, which was nice. And from there, it was really like, okay, so if being on a series and acting, all that stuff is not like this. I thought I had like reached the success of my life. And I'm like, if that doesn't make you happy, what does? And it really set me on a journey. The first thing I needed to do is learn how to conduct myself as a business person, because I had been taken advantage of by managers and agents and all of this. And so I started going to a lot of business seminars and workshops. And even though I didn't study that in college at UCLA, that's what I realized I needed to do. And I also loved speaking. And funny, like what we're doing right now, because I recovered from an addiction, because I ended up with an eating disorder by, like default, like every young actor in Hollywood. You have to tell your story when you go to meetings in that program. And a lot of us from the industry were in an organization called Young Artists United. And it was Sarah Jessica Parker, Robert Downey Jr., and a bunch of other people. We would go to these junior high schools and talk to kids who were struggling with self-esteem, who were struggling with drugs, struggling with eating disorders. And we didn't get paid. It was so gratifying. The kids were so appreciative. And it was so inspiring to me that it really kind of led me into like a speaking career that I didn't plan. From there, I got asked to host a very popular morning talk radio show. And from there, I was offered to host my own talk show. And then from there, I was asked to start hosting some of these huge business conferences that we used to do around the country, 2-3 times a month, with like 10 to 20,000 people, like those big sports arenas like the Staples Center or whatever. And I was the host, and I would interview all the very famous people who did not know how to speak on a platform by themselves. So I was traveling with Colin Powell and Laura Bush and a lot of amazing athletes, NFL Hall of Fame players, Terry Bradshaw and Joe Montana. And it was so inspiring for me to work with these people, because they'd already proved themselves in their careers, and their whole goal was to like give back to the audience and kind of pay it forward and try to teach them leadership skills and business skills of things that they had learned by making a lot of mistakes. And to have my young son like influenced by these people at such a young age was amazing. And I fell in love with that part of my career more. I was always intending to kind of go back to acting. And then I fell so in love with this process that I continued. And that led me to meet this beautiful woman who's asking me to be on the show, because when that tour shut down, somebody I knew recommended I speak to the owners of Digital Marketer, who were doing a training on how to write your own book. And so they brought me on part of the team to teach that. And we taught that for a couple of years, 2 years, something like that.
Yeah, that was like 7 years ago.
I know.
I know.
And I have to tell you, there's a lot of people right now that want to learn that because they're home and they've got all these ideas in their head. So that's something we have to talk about later, but it's a whole nother thing. But and then from that, which was amazing, and loved doing that. And I was just in the process of working with actually one of the owners of Digital Marketer to launch a program. And then I got approached by a dear friend of mine from college who asked me to help him with the promotion of his fashion line. And they were thinking about, QVC had asked them to maybe bring the line on the air. So we flew back to the East Coast and met with the people. And next thing I knew, I was launching this fashion line at QVC. And it's because I had a lot, I had a background in television, and I also had done, speaking, and I wasn't afraid of doing it, but it's a whole different animal. And so we launched the brand. And so for the last, I've been with the company now for probably about 6-7 years. And we've done over $150 million in sales. Actually, I have done in my presentations in just like a 4-year period since we've been on the air, because a year of it was like prep. And it's been so much fun, and I love the people. And I think the thing that people go, why would you want to do that as opposed to going back and doing a series? I am surrounded by all these fashion designers, entrepreneurial women. They are so down to earth. They are spiritual. They are loving. They are mutually supportive. And I made a commitment to myself when I left my series. I would never, ever sacrifice my happiness for finances. And it's weird how life leads you in different directions. And because of the coronavirus, I had people kind of approaching me to do a reboot of my series recently, Netflix and those guys. And I also wanted to relaunch my talk show. So since I have not been able to get on a plane to fly to shoot the show, we're calling in and Skyping in. And now 2 weeks ago, I just ended up relaunching my talk show. And that's been kind of out of nowhere. And so this is a really difficult time, and there's so much pain. But at the same time, I think it's such an amazing opportunity for people who are just home with their thoughts to think about, am I really doing what I'm passionate about? Is there something on that bucket list that I haven't done? And of course, spend quality time with the people that you love, if by the grace of God you're not sick, or if you don't know somebody who's critically ill. So that's my long story. And I just feel very grateful just for all the blessings of my life. And I'm just excited to be with you guys. So there it is.
We're so glad that you're here. And I don't know how much you want to dive in, but I know you know, you started out and you like you said with Nell and all them on site, you know, you had some downs and some things that where you really hit rock bottom. What do
Yeah.
you think it is that helped you overcome that to where you were able to really just pivot and move forward? Because, you know, I think a lot of people, there's ladies on here and, you know, that have had the same thing, that have had those big moments where you just feel like you're not going to be able to recover. And yet you had moments like that. And, you know, I remember as a friend, you and I've shared. And so how did you take that step? And what would you give advice to anyone that's listening?
Right.
Because this is going to go out to the podcast. What would you give advice to anyone listening that they could do that would help change their mindset, that this is not it? There's so much more, and how to get out of that.
Well, first of all, never give up. And I have been in that place of despair, you guys, where I just thought, I just can't go any further. I felt that when I was on my series. I felt at that time when I was, well, the environment was bad and I felt trapped just because of my contract. And I was young, you guys. I didn't know you could get out, you know, but also I felt more desperate because my eating disorder had gotten so bad. And it was because I was in so much pain at work and didn't feel like I had the right to share that pain, that I just went to food. And I didn't really understand that I was using the food as a drug to anesthetize myself, that actually binging and fasting can have the same effect as overindulging in like alcohol because of the sugar content. Like I had literally sugar blackouts where, I mean, there's people I don't even remember that worked on the show because I just don't remember it. And that was a survival mechanism until I went into rehab, and the people there taught me how to recognize that I was angry, I was sad, I didn't even know it. I think one of the things that helped me in the beginning was just to start writing in a journal, what am I feeling? Like, what's the voice saying? You know, because we all have, and this is going on for, I mean, a big population of the country right now that does not know how to be still and be with themselves. I feel very blessed that I learned that in my 20s, and I learned it to save my life. I mean, I was in a position where my life was in danger because my addiction was so bad. And once I learned it, I think the thing was, they say in our program, it's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you. And a lot of times we're just on autopilot, and we don't even know that we're doing, it's the definition of insanity. You do the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And so the first thing was, get help, reach out. Do you know what I mean? You really can't and shouldn't feel like you have to do this alone. I mean, we need each other. We need each other now during what we're going through. And after this is over, we need each other. And I had this amazing support system of people in that program, and a couple of dear friends that I trusted, people that you trust that you can really share with. And if you don't have that, I just say, like, write to your higher power, to God. If you're not a godly person, we call it your higher power. You know, just write, you know what I mean, how you're feeling, and ask for help. I mean, I think it seems strange that like people say, well, what's prayer going to do for me now? It's amazing how powerful it can be. And the other thing that I did that really helped me is they recommended that I write down all the negative stuff that was in my head. It was, you're not pretty enough, you're not talented enough, you're not smart enough, you're not thin enough. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And then, so I wrote it all down. And when you guys write things down that are in your head and you look at them on a left side of a paper, you're like, they said to me, so with all those things you wrote, I didn't have a child at the time, I do now, but they said, if you had a little daughter, would you say those things to her, like over and over and over? And I was like, well, of course not. And then they said, like, well, why is it okay for you to abuse yourself in this way? And so I had to separate it from myself. And it was the voice. We called it the committee of negative voices in your head that would like start in the morning to mess up your day. They used another expletive, but I'm going to say mess up your day. And it was the devil on your shoulder, but the angel on your shoulder was on your heart. I put it on my heart side. I couldn't even hear that voice for a very long time. But the way I started to hear it was, the exercise was on the opposite side of the page, take the negative thing you wrote and flip it, which is like, I'm not smart enough. So it would be like, well, I know the things I know, and I can surround myself with other people that can help me with things I don't know. You're not thin enough. The other one was, you are fine with the weight you are. Beauty is not about just your weight. Now, you may not even believe what you write on the other side, but you have to just fake it. You know what I mean? And you have to flip all those negative things to a positive, They had had us write them down on a card, like those little index cards, and read them every night before you go to bed and every morning. You were reprogramming your brain, because a lot of times the thing that stops us from being successful and going after our dreams is the voice. It's not even other people. It could have been other people in the beginning that said those things to you when you were a child, or when you were married, or when you could be a sister or a brother, or whoever said it, a boss. But then we take them in and we embrace them. So just that one thing alone of learning how to reprogram that voice in my head, and I still have it sometimes, but most time when I hear it now, I'm like, literally, shut up, because I don't have time for you. You know what I mean? And you're going to, at that point, I wrote to the voice. I said, you're killing me, literally. You're going to ruin my life, ruin all my dreams, and just destroy everything for me. And I started to get angry with the voice. I'm like, shut up, and leave me alone. I had to literally talk to it because it was so abusive. And now that I have my own child, like the idea of saying any of these things to him, it's just beyond me how horrible and mean and nasty the voice was in my head. I had to deal with that voice before I could really move to the next level. The other thing that helped me was I listened to tapes of Anthony Robbins, for example, Jonathan Gray, the relationship guy, the Men Are From Mars, Venus guy. There's so much stuff that you guys can get now that's available, that you can get available. Tony Robbins helped me a lot during that chapter of my life and he was young and he was really loud at the time and kind of over the top. But when you didn't have to look at him because he was like in your face, listening to him, one of the most important things I heard him say was, it's not, he would say, don't ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? He says, you need to ask yourself better questions. So when things happen in our lives, we're like, oh, why is this happening to me? Oh my gosh. If you say to yourself, okay, as painful as this is, what can I learn from it? It puts you in action. Like, okay, so what was the lesson I needed to learn? It doesn't mean you're not going to cry. You're not going to hide under the covers. You're not going to call a girlfriend or a friend or whoever, your therapist, and talk about it. But you have to help yourself move through it. And then I think that the bottom line is having a support system, which is what he's doing right now. What we're doing right now is so important. One of the things that has been proven in counseling for people with any kind of addiction is doing one-on-one counseling is good, but the thing that's the most powerful is either small group counseling, or even if you're in a large, some meetings are 30 people, some of them are 200 people, and they're actually hilarious. People are funny when they're recovering from drug addiction and alcoholism. I used to go to those meetings even though I didn't have those issues, because the meetings were so funny. But I think that when you get the support system, that is probably one of the most important parts, because you know that you're not alone. Other people are going through the same thing. And it was like saying, okay, I am not going to allow this voice or that person or this situation to rob me of doing what I know God's destiny is for me. It's kind of like, I know that God put talents and abilities in me to be of service in my life. And when I was little, I think I was insecure. So being on television and being well known, it's like a lot of actors are the most insecure people in the world, and they need people to clap for them. Once I got through that need, it was like, okay, now what? Well, now it's like, what's my purpose in life? And it really was about, well, how can I be of service to the world? And so I realized, okay, I just want to use what I have, my special talents. I'm not the talented person in all areas of life, right? I just have a few special talents. So I've just, kind of used those. And I also try to find things to do in my career and in my life that bring me joy, because why not be happy? I mean, my mom and dad taught me that if you don't love what you're doing, you should find a different gig. They were entertainers. Like if they weren't happy and having a great time, they would move on to something else. That was their belief system. And I feel very grateful that I was raised with that, because you don't want to live in a job or in a career or in a business for years that makes you miserable, because life, you guys, look, life is short, and we're realizing that. I think people facing their own mortality right now and not knowing whether what we're dealing with this virus could kind of attack. If we go to the market and get milk and we touch something and we get sick in a week, we could be gone, which is what's happening. So I think people are facing their mortality right now, and it's really putting people in kind of a crazy thing. Like, do you have any unresolved issues in your relationships with your family? Have you not done those things, right, that you want to do on your bucket list? And I think those are the things that have helped me. And in times of despair, oh my gosh, you guys, there have been so many times, like the two of us have talked about, where I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I'm just like, I had that happen to me about 2.5 years ago with just a personal situation. Somebody that I trusted with my life betrayed me in a very, very hurtful way. And it was very painful. And it was so shocking to begin with. And I've had people betray me many times in my life. I hate to say it. And shocked every time. I'm a really trusting person. But, it took a while. And I kind of hid under the covers and cried a lot for a couple of weeks. And I thought, I actually felt physically like I was dying. I mean, I physically was so sad and so blindsided by it. I just thought, oh my gosh, again, how am I going to recover from this? Somehow, you just end up putting one foot in front of the other, and you get to the other side of it. And I now see there's a reason why this all happened. It kind of, without getting into detail, I mean, I now understand why this happened. And it's not why did this happen to me? It's what can I learn from it? And I now realize what I had to learn from it and where I believe God was leading me into this next chapter of my life. So I know that's a long monologue, but that's really kind of, and if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to disclose any of the other techniques I've used.
No, I think that's great, Kari, and thank you for being so vulnerable with us. But I think a lot of people can relate to some of the things that you shared. And one of the things I would like that I thought was incredible with what you just mentioned is that you took this time. I mean, obviously we're all homebound, we're all kind of stuck, limited to what we can do, and we're having to learn to pivot in a different way. And I was on a phone call with someone the other day, and they were asking me about how I enjoyed my time, my vacation, and I went, this has been the busiest 5 weeks of my life. I don't even know. Like I'm working at least 18-hour days, and then trying to get some sleep, and then enjoying the wine with my friends when I have the time. But there's not been a vacation, so it's really fun. And this person is a business person, and it was really interesting for me to see that shift. For some of us, and I mean, all these ladies that are on here, we're all business entrepreneurs, and we're all shifting. We're trying to really make these businesses grow. What was it that you did that kept you, that said, I'm not going to just sit here at home with my son, which I'd love to just do and just have vacation, versus I'm going to take this time and create new opportunities in what you did. And now you've got some new businesses and new talk shows. So what was that pivot for you?
So first I was in panic mode because my ex-husband is in the vulnerable category, has a few health issues and age-wise. And so I was in panic. I was on Amazon. All I was doing was in survival mode for the first good 10 days to almost maybe 2 weeks, in shock, terrified, all of those things. But, and I was watching the news like crazy, which I know they say, don't watch. I know this. I teach this. Don't watch the news. It'll take you into but I needed to be informed because I was learning things like, washing the milk bottle when it comes home, wearing gloves. I mean, like things that I needed to learn. And I felt like I need to be informed. So I was in that crazy state of craziness, right, for the first 2 weeks. But before I would go to bed, because I know how devastating it is to go to bed with all that fear and negativity in your head, I was going on Instagram and watching Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Ellen, James Corden, because they were all doing mini monologues. They were at home trying to shoot like thinking it was only going to be 2 weeks, right? So they were doing that stuff with their kids. It was hilarious. I would literally be laughing out loud. And as I watched them shooting from home, I'm like, they were on the phone, on Instagram, no lighting, no nothing. And I thought, this is hilarious. And then the next thing that happened a few days later was all these people I knew in the business, or like people that were actors or friends of mine that are in fashion, started going live. They started going live, and I'm watching them all going live. And I'm looking at them going, well, okay, don't take this the wrong way, but I thought, I used to do a talk show and this is all over the place. I can do better than this, you know? Like, I mean, this is going off one tangent and then it's going down another tangent, and they should angle the camera a little bit differently because it's not a good angle. I'm criticizing, I'm producing, right? So then I thought, I need to do this. And I'm very blessed that from those years of me traveling that I developed a friendship with General Colin Powell. And I had called him because it was his birthday recently. And I've always wanted in the post tour to get him do an interview. He had sent me a link to an interview that he did for a very well-known political, channel. And I was watching it thinking he didn't ask him this, and this. You know what I mean? And I traveled with him for a long time and I actually know the family. So I was thinking, I just need to do it. And so it just kind of, I don't know, all of a sudden I started getting ideas because I'm lying there at night, having a hard time sleeping. Just so you guys know, usually I stay up till 2 a.m. and I get up around 8 or 9, right? Well, I literally was waking up at 5, 6 in the morning because my brain was scared. Yet then all of a sudden it shifted, Dee. It was like shifted to all these creative ideas started coming out of me because what I was seeing going on, so inspired by the people in Italy that were clapping for the healthcare workers, the music. I just posted something today that from the Tony Award winning play called Dear something Hansen. Oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fade. It's called You Will Be Found. It's a song from a Tony Award winning show called Dear. I can't believe myself. But anyway, James Corden played it on his show the other day. So the cast is doing Zoom. You know how you guys are seeing all these things with all the people, the symphonies and the people singing these famous songs. And I just thought, wow, the world is like totally separated and we're all been sent home as little bad kids to like go to our rooms, but we're connected in a way right now that I've never seen. When have you ever seen all the countries working together in harmony to save ourselves from the virus? It's the world is not fighting over whose God is right and killing each other. We don't have time to worry about fighting each other over who's going to kill each other over whose God is the correct one. We are trying to save humanity right now, right? So I think what happened to me was I started getting so inspired by what I was seeing on social media, by what I was seeing broadcast on the news of these clips of people singing to each other, and Keith Urban doing a concert at home, so everybody was going, okay, I'm stuck at home. Jimmy Kimmel, okay, I got to make people laugh, you know what I mean? Because we need, at times like this, we need that. So I think right now it's a great time. So for me, that's what happened is all of a sudden my creative ideas started flowing. And then QVC came back and they decided, okay, this is going to last longer than 2 weeks. So now I'm calling in or Skyping in. Now I have to, when I'm not on the air, I have to prep all the hosts for when they're presenting our different like collections. So it's taken me a lot of time. It's in my head, but now I got to write it all down. I got to send it in an email. I'm doing that. And then I had this friend of mine call me, about the talk show, and then other people, this whole thing about the book. I started talking on my show like last week about people who we all have a purpose. And maybe you never will publish this book, but every single one of us has a message that we can share about what we have learned in our lives that has helped us to survive and in times thrive. And also maybe a message that you can share about times you've been in desperation. Because sometimes the desperation is really more important for us to share than the successful times. Because when people know that you've been desperate and you have overcome that, I think that was one of the most powerful things that made me want to go into broadcasting is that I had an interview, two of them, one with Martin Sheen and one with Kenny Loggins, two different times. But Martin was dedicating a hospital, and as it's publicly known that Charlie Sheen has had many issues with in and out of drug issues, and he was dedicating a wing of this hospital. And he came there, and I had my talk show, and the PR people said, "You've got 3 minutes," right? So went and sat down with him in this garden. We started talking, but it lasted for 25 minutes because we just had a connection. And it was so inspiring to me because he was so raw about, as a father, what he was going through and why he was doing this. The other thing that inspired me more than the success was talking to Kenny Loggins on my show. And I had not intended to go here, but we just started talking about this new album he had done, which was just one of the best things I think he'd ever done. And it was after the height of Kenny Loggins and Footloose and Loggins and Messina and all of that. But I said to him, he goes, yeah, during the interview, he says to me, yeah, I was thinking of just quitting the business. I'm like, why would you quit the business? He goes, well, when rap took over, nobody really cared about us anymore. He goes, I couldn't get a record deal. And I just thought I was going to quit. And so I told my kids, who were young at the time, that I think, how would you like it if daddy just quits and becomes like a soccer dad? He was living in Santa Barbara at the time. And he said, one of his children looked at him and said, Daddy, you can't quit. If you quit singing, you'll die. And he said, it hit him like a ton of bricks. And he just felt like, he said, he was like so taken aback by it because he would thought they go, yay, daddy's going to be a soccer dad. But he said, it was like, he really felt like no one cared. And I looked at him because I had heard the album because I was going to interview him. I said, Kenny, I'm like, I love your music. I've loved it since 1975. I said, but this album is so intimate and so raw and so deep and so spoke to my heart. And I believe everybody else's heart who's watching us right now. And I said, you can't quit because we need you. Because for me, music heals me. That's the other thing I will say is that right now, music is one of the most healing things in the world. But I think that those are the things that in desperation, if you're in desperation right now because you don't know what's going to happen to your business, it may seem like the worst thing that has ever happened, this whole thing. It might be the biggest blessing because maybe now you're going to have to revamp the way you do your business in a way that you had never thought of. And maybe you have talents and ways to do that other people don't. And it will help you to thrive in a way that you would never have considered and actually beat out your competition because they didn't think of doing it that way. Because I truly believe right now that doing things like we're doing right now on Zoom, Facebook Live, doing things like that, the people who can do that and be successful at it are the ones that are going to thrive on the other side. Because although we want the world to go back to the way it was, it's not going to be that way for a while. So in marketing, one of the most important things that Ryan Dice from Digital Marketing, he sent out an email recently and he said, anybody who's out there trying to sell stuff right now should really stop because it's so important right now that your messaging is to give, then make an offer, right? Because right now people need to know that the only thing you don't care. First of all, a lot of people don't have any money. They don't know if they're going to have any money after this is over because of their business and their job. So I think as a business owner, it's so important. I'm trying to be of service to my followers and to my customers and not ask them to buy anything that I sell right now because I'm building the relationships. And I'm doing it quite frankly from my heart because I think they need it. And for any of us that have a business, we believe in our product. We know it serves people. You guys know that or you wouldn't be doing it. And if you're doing a business that you don't believe in, get into a different business. But if you believe in your business, then right now, I think is the time to love on the followers and to be there in a way for them that they're going to remember, because authenticity I've learned and I've been taught, it's something I kind of do anyway. Once I let the guard down, because as you said, I had this big guard up of trying to act like I had it all together for such a long time. The minute I took that shield down and became authentic, on camera, in my business, in my speaking, my career exploded.
Yeah.
And why was that? Because people could relate to me and realize she's normal. She's not I call myself perfectly imperfect. And I think when we share our authentic selves, whether it's with your family, your spouse, your customers, the world, Instagram, Facebook, even if it's someone who's not going to be a part of your business, something happens universally when we're willing to give. And I think that's probably, to kind of end this, one of the most important things we can do is to get out of our overwhelm. And what really helped me is I thought, I've got to get out of this panic of keeping my son alive, keeping my ex-husband alive, so my son doesn't freak out if his father passes away, right? And I had to get into, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And I knew from all the things that I've done in the past that there were things I could cover in my show that would be helpful. And that's what I've been doing. And I've gotten more response on that from my following than I've gotten in, months. I post videos of the things I'm doing, but because I'm doing those things and really being there for people, it's a whole shift. And I feel at the end of the day that I feel so powerless at home. I can't help. I can't go in the hospital. I don't want to go in the hospital. God bless these people that are in the hospital caring for people that are sick and, all of that. At least I feel like I'm doing something to help. This is all I can do. I'm like, what can I do? Well, this is what I can do. And if I can help one person get out of that overwhelm or that depression, or remind them that, hey, like Chris Cuomo says, let's get after it. And I'm actually, the title of my episode that I'm doing tomorrow night is called Let's Get After It, because come on, you guys, let's get after it. Let's think about, what can we do right now? What can we create that we weren't thinking about? How can we bless people's lives? How can we take it to another level? What can we add into our business that we didn't have before? Who can we collaborate with? I mean, there's so many exciting things that we can do, to get ourselves into a better place and get ourselves out of our own self-obsession and fear.
That's so great. No, that's great. Kari, we have a question from Summer. Summer, are you still there? If not, I'll read the question.
Okay.
She said, if you could give yourself 10 years ago as a business owner advice, knowing what you know now, what would that be?
Believe in yourself. Stop doubting yourself. Oh my gosh, you guys. Yeah. Of everything. It's two things. The most important thing I learned was, don't try to be the best at everything. Surround yourself and collaborate with people that are good at what you're not. But I knew that 10 years ago. The biggest thing, again, standing in my way 10 years ago, transitioning from being a speaker into basically doing programs and doing, like I used to promote other people that were selling products. I mean, I'm a really good promoter. I love doing that, which is why I love doing my talk show, because I'm promoting other people. But when I had to have my own product, which is why QVC is great for me, because I go on the air and it's relational. I am connecting with the host. I am not literally sending them an email and saying, click here, but that's something that I'm okay with, but I need to have other, like, the software doing it for me, because I'm just not good at saying, give me money. It's just not my great thing, even though I believe in my product 100%. So that's why I realized the systems that we have in place and putting a funnel together, sales funnel, is so great, because it kind of leads. I can do the talking part of it, but it leads people through the funnel. But I think the main thing that I would say from 10 years ago is, stop doubting yourself and just believe in yourself. Bottom line. Because that's
awesome.
Those self-doubts. It's the self-doubt. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Tracy, Holly, do y'all have any questions for Kari while we're here? We got her held captive.
Hey, Kari, it's Holly here. I just, not necessarily a question, but I just want to say I appreciate you being vulnerable, being real, being authentic. I know it's like, I couldn't imagine being, the whole superficial Hollywood and then, going through what you went through and then still like coming out the way you are right now. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that. And you are spot on in everything. And
There's a lot of therapy.
That's so good though. So good.
Thank you. It's so sweet. And again, you were talking earlier when we were doing this about desperation. I mean, I had to do that work because I literally would, if I didn't physically die, I was mentally dead. You know, I mean, the little girl that grew up in New York that used to dance around in my mom's dance studio and dream of acting and singing and dancing, she was gone. And I knew I had to save my life. So it took me quite a few years. I mean, I hit bottom at 23, and it probably wasn't until I was about 29, took about 6 years of a lot of pain and a lot of struggle when the light started, it started to lift. I mean, I couldn't get clean and sober from my addiction. It took me 6 years of slipping and falling, but I didn't give up. I mean, that's all I can say, is I didn't give up. But thank you for saying that. But it took a lot of work. I mean, it took a lot of work, and it's still work. It's not as hard now. I think I'm more consciously competent at doing the things that I need to do to get myself out of those self-doubts. They still come up. I mean, they still rear their ugly heads, but most time now, and I hear them, I'm like, really, I really don't have time for you right now. And that helps. And I talk to them like they're another person and they're not me, because the purest of who we are is not. And I thank you for saying that, because I feel really grateful to be alive. I mean, like, I have a lot of friends that died. A lot of people I knew growing up in the business are gone. A lot of people. I mean, they died. I mean, Whitney Houston was on our show. She passed away. I dated Andy Gibb. He passed away at 29. Dana Plato died young. I mean, I could just go on and on and on about all the people that died from drugs. And I mean, even with, you think about somebody, and okay, here's a perfect example. Robin Williams. Here's a man who the world loves. There's like it's really hard to find anyone who doesn't love Robin Williams. But Robin Williams had such a abusive self-talk in his own head. And I mean, it's so tragic that he took his own life. But it shows you that no matter how much everybody else loves you, if you don't do the work to learn how to love yourself, even with all your imperfection, or our imperfections, I'll say our, because I still have my own, that, that voice can destroy us. So I thank you. It's a daily work in progress, but I am in a better place than I've ever been in my life. I financially am making more money than I've ever made in my life. People don't understand that, I mean, I made a lot of money. I made a lot of money on my television series, but I have found that I'm doing now what I think I'm destined to do. It doesn't mean I'll never act again, but it will be for a totally different reason. It won't be for people to tell me I'm okay, because I know I'm okay. I'm not always okay, but you know what I mean? Really in my heart, I know I'm okay. As long as I act with integrity and I do the best I can, and I apologize if I hurt someone, and I have good relationships with business people, personal relationships and stuff like that. So I really appreciate you saying that, but it does take work. It really does. And I'm not always perfect at it, but it definitely has put my life in a much happier place than it was.
Tracy, you got anything you want to say?
I do. First, Kari, I want to say thank you. But gosh, I bet, I mean, just from me, I just want to say that I'm proud to see how you turned that around, and just proud of you to listen to that. We were watching the whole different strokes behind the scenes kind of addiction problems that all of the children had, and none of them are with us, I don't think.
But Todd, we still have Todd.
But Todd went through a lot to get through that process, and just to get all the demons and everything out of his mindset, between his ears and the people that he would meet because he thought he had to meet them, and then watching her go rob a VHS store, just for a couple $100.
I know.
And that's, growing up, when we watch these shows, you would never, Gary Coleman, like, what you talking about, Willis? You never would have thought that they had all these issues going on, just like Robin Williams. So, cahoots to you. And just, air hug. I mean, that's awesome, to be able to really just, yes. take that was happening in here and now and finding and getting it out to be where you're at today. So I mean, it's just amazing because a lot of people can't get through that.
Well, and I think the reason why I got through it 100%, I know it's because I was raised, my parents didn't have a lot of money. They worked paycheck to paycheck. They were entertainers. They went job to job, but I was very wealthy in love. And I always knew I was. As a matter of fact, my parents were not very impressed by Give Me a Break. They would have preferred if I did Shakespeare in the Park, because sitcom really was not something to be like incredibly proud of in my family. So, they were more proud, I think, when I did Alice in Wonderland down at a little theater in LA that only sat 50 people, you know, instead of the millions of people all over the world that were watching Give Me a Break. And they didn't think the writing was that good, but they were happy for me, you know, that I was doing it. And, you know, what they didn't like was the pain that I was going through. And actually, they didn't know it for a long time. So I think that I know the reason I got through it is because I had so much love behind it. They could have cared less if I was on the show or not. They thought I was just as valuable without the show, or more so. And I think in a way they were probably happy when I left the show early. So I think that it's so important for us to know as entrepreneurs that that foundation, it's not a little issue. I mean, I really learned this, is that who we're surrounded by behind our business and who supports us. And if you don't have a supportive family, it's so important to create these friendships like you have here, which is supportive, because it's running a business is real hard. I mean, it takes a lot of work. Obviously, we all know that there's ups and downs and roller coasters, and you've got to be able to know that at the end of the day, you can go home, and even if you're not home living with someone that loves you, you have girlfriends that love you, other business associates like you, like this, like, you know, a community where you can call someone and cry and go, this happened to me today and I'm freaking out. You know, I mean, I believe that is so important in life and as a business owner. And if you don't have that from your family, like my parents are both gone now. So when they both passed away as an only child, I became an orphan. So now I rely on just a small group of really, I have no brothers and sisters, but I have a couple of really close friends that are the people that I reach out to for help. They are like my soul sisters. They're not real sisters, but they might as well be. And I need them, you know, in times of strife, whether it's personally or professionally. So I think that's the reason why I survived it. Otherwise, I might be dead right now for sure. Just like Gary, just like I worked with Gary as well. That's a tragic situation. I mean, same thing with Dana, bad home life. Gary, bad home life. Todd, somewhat. I saw him recently. He's doing a lot better, but a lot of those people had a rough background, you know, dissension with, you know, parental issues, had been abused, molested, you know, whatever the case may be. So I think that it's really important for us to have that support at home, because look, what does life matter if you've got a successful business but you don't have love in your life? It doesn't mean you have to. I'm not in a relationship right now, so I don't have a significant other, but I have so much love in my life, so much love, like, and we need to have love in our life. That's what the world is all about. I mean, I think that's what our life is all about, because at the end of the day, when we're facing that mortality, does it really matter what the production of the business was the month before? No, you know, and if you don't have kids, or if you do have kids, my son could care less about me leaving the business to him. He wants quality time with me, right? That's what they care about, you know? So I think that really is what it got me through. And, you know, what I always recommend to people in business is, I mean, a lot of business owners are freaking out right now because they're workaholics, but I think it's like the universe is going, hey, maybe you need to spend a little more quality time with your kids. Like, I have 4 projects, actually more, that are on hold until my son graduates from high school, which is in 3 years. Because I know if I go after those, they're probably going to do well, and then he will not have any quality time with me. And I still travel a lot, but I'm not willing to sacrifice being there for him and then enjoying him myself, because he's going to leave me and go off to college and find some girl. And then I won't, this is like this small little window, right, that I have. And I feel that same way about people who have, you know, elderly parents, you know, I mean, You know, if you've got issues with your parents, try to resolve them. I have heard in so many healing stories of what's happening in relate. I heard one this morning. My girlfriend's sister, her sister had not spoken to her mother for 3 years. They had a falling out. And because of this thing, she called. They're talking every day because, of course, she's concerned about her mom, and the relationship is healing. It was as a result of this. Well, what a blessing, right? Because what if something happened to her? What if something happened to the daughter, right? You don't want to have these unresolved issues. So I think it's the love it's everything, you know, that loving environment. That's why we're all here together, right?
Well, that's exactly, I mean, I just want you to know that, you know, I've always loved you. You're such a dear friend, and you just mean the world to me. And I'm so, so glad and honored that you came and shared with this group. And that's what this group is about. It's about women in business that are here to support each other. So we have a place where we can come, where we have a place where we can support one another. It's not all just, we're not alone. Like anyone on this screen right here, we can call each other and we have each other's backs. And that's what this is about. And so I just truly am so grateful to you. You know, I love you. You know, you're my sister, and I just adore you. And I'm so grateful for what you shared with this group. Tracy, Holly, do y'all have anything else before we let Kari go, or any other questions? Or
just thank you so much. Appreciate your time. It was so good.
Well, thank you guys for being here tonight. It means the world to me as well. You guys lift my spirits up as much as hopefully I did a little bit to you guys.
Well, Kari, you're the best, and we really appreciate it. And we're so excited to see that you're going to knock out those new projects in that talk show. So that's going to be fun for us to watch.
Yes. And one more thing too is like, you know, what, for the ladies tuning in, what's the best way for people to follow you and connect with you?
Yeah, so it's just Instagram. It's at Kari Michaelsen, which is just my name. Same thing, Facebook. I have a public page and a private page. So you can, the public obviously is where I'm trying. See, I'm still going through the technical aspects of this. I ended up launching the Facebook Live on the wrong one last week by mistake because my producer child put me onto the wrong page. Didn't know it until like after it was all over. So little things like that. But, you know, it's just my name, Kari Michaelsen, Facebook and Instagram. I know I'm on Twitter, but I don't really do anything on Twitter. So I would love to have you guys and post to me and remind me that, you know, this is where you came from and stuff. And, you know, even go to my private page and I'll friend you back. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kari. We appreciate it. You've been just such a gem. Like, I love you. We all love you. I mean, everyone's been writing on here saying how much you've been an inspiration. So again, just know that you truly are such an incredible woman, and we're all honored to have learned from you tonight.
And I'm honored to be with you, as you know. And you guys, I know I said it earlier, but like you could not be in better hands than being with, I mean, she's not going to talk herself up, so I will. One of the you are, of all the women that I've worked with, I mean, one of the most powerful, effective, just leaders that I have ever met, not even just as a woman, but just as a leader. I mean, it's incredible. You guys, some of you may not know what she does, but I have watched her in action. I mean, it is unbelievable. It's mesmerizing to me what she does as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, and the fact that everybody loves her. And this is like the you know, the traits of a leader. You know, when followers, they will do anything for the leader. That's what she brings to the table. And like, it's not just that, she also has the biggest heart. So she's wicked smart. She's really powerful. She's an incredible leader and one of the most heartfelt people I have ever known. So I am just so excited for you guys that
I love you.
You are amazing. And I feel very blessed and grateful. Even though we may not speak to each other for like, it could be months or even a year or 2 years, the minute, you know, we get reconnected, it's like, oh, you know, I just feel so blessed.
I miss you.
It's like a lifelong assignment. It's a lifelong assignment.
Yeah, well, I love you, my friend. Thank you so much for everything. You truly are such a dear friend, and I'm so honored to know you and that you were able to share your story with everyone here, and that's so impactful. So thank you again. And guys, we're going to come back again next week and for more Whine and Wind Down, right, Holly and Tracy? So
I saw when somebody say Deanna is awesome. I'm like, yes, she is. She is awesome. I agree.
Thank you. So what do we have next week, Holly? Anything fun?
Right now, yeah, it's just just do a Q&A for all the you guys. Bring your questions. We're here to bounce ideas, maybe or also share what's working. Trials and tribulations during this time. We're definitely trailblazing right now, so it's exciting times to go through and recreate processes. So I think tomorrow, just you guys grab your favorite cocktail, mocktail, whatever it is that you're sipping on, and just come ready to share, but then also, feel free to ask us any questions because as you guys know, we're here for you.
Tracy, anything?
No. So, not no, but today's Wednesday, right? So next Wednesday, I'm like, what is today? I'm like stuck in this house. It really doesn't even matter, right? I just get up and do this, keep working and hustling and knocking out all these projects that I kept saying I never had time for, right? So, Wednesday nights, if you've joined us before for Wind Down, bring your drink, bring your fun, bring anything that you need to get off your chest, all of those crazy things that you think in your brain that you can't succeed on or want to have. Somebody's telling you you're not good enough for it. Bring that to the table. We'll knock it out, and we'll get you right back where you need to be to knock it out. We've had a lot of fun on these calls, and especially just opening up and sharing your stories, just like Kari did. We all have a story, and your past doesn't define you. It's what you're doing today.
Awesome. All right. Well, make sure that you guys invite other women to this group. And again, like Holly and Tracy said, post your questions throughout the week in the Facebook group because we want to be able to come each Wednesday and be able to share and help and be motivate and kind of bring answers back to you. So please, if you're having a really bad week, if you are looking for platforms or whatever it is, post it in the Facebook group. We will find the answer for you. That's what our goal is. Our goal is to be here to support you. So share this group with everybody else. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's why we're here. So, and I guess we'll see you next Wednesday. Y'all take care.